Hello again, this is part 6 of the Sanderson sister dollhouse. Alright, so in the last video I'm still working on the trim, the walls and all that stuff, which that's taken a lot longer than I expected it to. But as you can see behind me, I've got a lot of the outside done. I've got a lot of this little trim added to the outside, and even on the inside I've got a lot of the trim done. When I was scarring the lines on the inside of the walls, it really weakened the foam board. So I went back through the whole house, the outside of the house, and I've made a copy of the house basically, and of all the walls that I've already made out of the foam board, and I've glued those cardboard walls to the outside before I did all the trim work and put the siding on. After I got the cardboard glued on, I painted over. As you can see, I haven't got the final paint job done, but the brown that you see is acrylic paint mixed with Mod Podge, and it just kind of gives everything like a shell, like a protective shell that just helps hold everything together better. So here's the outside of the back. You can still see the cardboard where I made the whole walls, the second layer of the wall into the cardboard. And then this is that foam trim where I just made it out of the foam, cutting the strips. And then up here at the top, let me move the camera a little bit. This is siding, and to make it look like siding, I just cut strips of poster board and just put that on there. And then I've already been over this with a layer of the Mod Podge. And then if I turn it around, I finally got this half of the roof put on, and it was a little tricky to cut the roof and get it to fit this angle. I didn't have a pattern, I'm just kind of making it up as I go. So when I put the two parts together, it still don't really line up too good, but most likely I'm never going to display this together, and it'll always be to where you can look at the inside of it anyway. So and then later I'll show you how it does look when it's together with the other half. I think this inside is just about done. I've got the floor finished up in here, and the walls, I've got those all trimmed out, and the only thing is up here on the ceiling. It's just plain cardboard, and I feel like it needs a little detail. I guess maybe some of this foam trim I've cut out, maybe put strips of that up here to look like boards, but I just feel like it needs a little something so it's not so plain. And this poster board will get that same coat of Mod Podge mixed with paint. And everything I've done before I give it the final paint job will get that layer of Mod Podge, because that'll just help hold it all together, and it also gives me a base coat so I don't have to paint so many layers. So here is the fireplace wall. This beam is kind of in the way, so I'm just going to try to angle that up. But I've got this little built-in area back here. I've just got a piece of that foam board going across here, and my hands can go back in behind there, and it just is kind of got these little walls here that stick out. And I've done this to make this wall that's going to go here out further than this wall back here, because back in this little cubby that I've built here is going to be the fireplace. So I've built these little walls out, and then I've cut this wall piece out. This is going to be the fireplace in here. I'm just going to glue that back in here like this. So here is that little wall that I'm going to make the fireplace, and I've got this little ball tool. It's just got that little ball on the tip of it, and I was taking this and going down in here making the design, but it wasn't really pressing it in far enough. So I've started using just the tip of my hot glue gun and just very quickly going down through here, and then just drawing on those details that I want to get. And I think the glue gun's going to be better, for me anyway, I mean, you got to kind of be careful because you'll burn it, and once you do, you know, there's no going back. So it just makes a really sort of realistic, and it'll look even better once I get it painted. And I like how it just kind of rounds the edges and makes them look more like rounded stone or handmade bricks more than just a perfect straight line. So I'm going to do this all the way down this piece of foam board and just, you know, draw on some brick designs, and then I'll get into painting it later. Okay, so here is that little brick wall that I've made for the fireplace. And I don't know if it really looks like brick or some sort of stone, but it's going to get painted to look like brick, so that's what it's going to be. And since I did peel that paper layer off the front of this, it did weaken it a lot. So I'm going to take this little thin cardboard and just glue this to the back of the foam using my tacky glue, and that'll strengthen that up, and I won't have to worry about popping that and bending that or breaking it or whatever. So once I get that glued on to this, I'll attach that into the house where it goes. So here we're back on the front of the house. This is no longer the foam board. I also put a layer of cardboard over this just to help strengthen that up. I did that, of course, on all the sides. And here you can see I've got the cardboard. I haven't attached this yet. I haven't glued it down. I've just got it stuck on here with stick pins. So I can go on the inside, trace the windows, and then cut them out before I glue it. I just figured it'd be easier to glue or to cut those windows out before I glue that on. And then, of course, I've got part of this little piece of the ceiling done here on this side, and then I've just got that piece to add over here, which I've got that cut out. I've just got to get it glued up here to finish that roof line. And the only thing I haven't done, of course, are going around the windows, but some of the windows will need glass, and I've noticed just from watching the movie, not every window has glass. I think all these up here just have shutters that close. It's mainly just the windows on the front that have the glass. And also down here on this door, the trim I put around the door, instead of using my foam board strips, I did use an actual piece of wood trim, just because, like I said, on the front door, when you go to put hinges in there, I wanted something strong enough to hold those hinges, and I knew that the foam board would not really work for that over time. It would just wear out and pull away. So when you go around doors, no matter what you use when you're making a house that's going to have a door, I would recommend using real wood trim for that, just so your door doesn't wear out, or the hinges don't wear out. And if you notice, I don't know if it really picks up, but the floor is very uneven. It's not level. It's level enough, but it's real wavy. Some of the boards don't even go together all the way. There's real kind of wide gaps between the boards, and that wasn't done intentionally, but I love how that turned out, because, you know, this is supposed to be a 300-year-old house, so of course the boards probably aren't going to be the most, you know, level and perfect. And of course I'm still going to do a paint job on here. I kind of like the look of this Mod Podge and paint that I did already, but that's not the final color that it's going to be. So I just really, you know, again, I didn't mean for that to be so uneven, but I think it's turned out to look really good for what the house should look like. So I've got those two pieces cut, and I'm going to see if I can get that to show. See, I went through there with the hot glue gun, and I've just made those little marks using that hot glue gun, and you really just draw real lightly on there your design. And that's what I like about this hot glue, or this foam. You can just draw in there. I'm trying to look to see if that picks up that angle, but see how easy that is, and you can't go too deep or you'll just go all the way through it. But once this is done and glued in place into the house, I will go over that with the Mod Podge, and see, now that gives you that brick on the interior of that. And then I've got to get that piece, get that little piece glued in up here. See, well, actually that needs to stay open, because if that's a chimney, that's where the smoke goes. So actually that's all this piece needed, was the sides. And then I'm going to do these the same, putting that little shelf in here. So it wasn't too hard to put that detail in there. Even once these parts were on, it was still pretty easy. So I'm just going to go ahead and do these. And I'm making these pieces go all the way down the bottom, so that it'll be just more support when I glue this into the house. This one's a little long, but I can just go right down there and cut that off like that. And then this will just fit right inside there. And then I've got one to go right inside here. And I'll box up this little hole. And there's a certain way I'm going to do this one, since it's got a rounded top, that I'll come back to here in just a second. Okay, so there's those little pieces added on. And I've cut out this little piece of poster board. I'm going to just glue down over the top of this, just as a little cap, kind of like a little shell cap thing. I don't know, just I figured it'd kind of help support this up here a little bit better. What I'm going to do over on this side is I've got a piece of this thin little cardboard that I've just rounded by rounding it around my finger, and I'm just going to slip that down over here and glue it to the sides to where it's rounded, so when you're looking up through there on the other side, you may be able to see up in there, but it's going to stop, because you're just going to see that top that I just put in there. So it'll look finished. And then this is how it looks from this angle. And I'm glad I decided to burn these little brick designs in here myself, instead of using that brick vinyl stuff like this, because it just looks more, you know, I'd rather everything that's going into this be made from scratch and made by me, instead of just something I've bought from a store. So once I get this piece glued on, I'll test it, I'll sit it inside the house, make sure that it fits, and then get that glued in place and let you see how that looks. So I've got that little back glued in here, and I made this shoot up taller than the rest of it, because you're going to need that to go up a little further, in case if anybody is trying to look up through there. It'll just have that brick design going all the way up. So there's the little fireplace that I've put together, and it'll continue up through here later on. I'll put like a taller piece that'll lead up to the chimney. So there's my little fireplace, and this is not probably exactly like what's in the movie. I tried to figure out how that looks, and it's very hard to see. So I just kind of made it up myself. I just kind of looked at what they had. I know they had the fireplace, and then they had a little piece over here that they kept things in, and then over here was a square that looks like it may have some wood inside. So I just kind of made it up on my own, since you can't really see what it looks like. So I'm going to now hook this in and get it glued into the house where it belongs. Okay, so I went ahead and glued the fireplace in. I was going to try to video it, but it was way too awkward to try to get that glued and, you know, get that caught on the camera at the same time. But I even had to do the lights in here, and it's quite a few lights. I don't know how well that's going to work. That's going to be one heck of a fire in that little fireplace. But I think overall the fireplace itself looks really good. I can't wait to start the painting. And whoops, there we go. I think once I get these smashed in there, and I'm going to do the same thing like I did with the fire pit. I'm going to go over these with tissue paper and maybe even add some sticks in there to look like an actual fire. But I've just got to see, these are on little bendable wires, so I can really scrunch that up and shove that right in there. And once that tissue paper's on, I think it's going to look pretty good. So I'm going to move the camera around so you can see it a little bit better. Turn the light off because that's a little bright. But here's where the some extra little fire logs can go. We might can put a little pot over here in this. And then up here there's a place I noticed in the movie. There's a broom hanging up here. And then the chimney will continue on up through this away and lead all the way up out the ceiling. And I'll probably put a little top over this, which will create a shelf, and then we can add some things up there later on. Alright, so one more thing over on the fireplace wall is I've already got one window put in. I've got the plastic put in. It's not permanent yet, but this is just that clear plastic that I had. I'm not really sure what it was from. And then I've already put a little window sill in this one using a piece of thin cardboard just so it looks flat and smooth. And then I found this net. This is some sort of plastic net. I'm not really sure. I got it at a yard sale. I think it might be something you put over your gutters to keep the leaves out. But if you notice in the Sanderson sister house, they've got this little detail that looks sort of like this. And I think it'll be the perfect thing to, you know, give that detail to the windows. So I've got that cut, and later when I'm closer to ready to putting that in, I'll just pop that in there like that and then trim out the window. And so that's going to be the perfect thing. I kept wondering what I would use to give it that little crisscross design, because I knew I couldn't paint it on or draw it on. I would never get them even enough. So I was lucky when I found this stuff to just cut and fix in there like that over the plastic. But then later on, when I get ready to do the windows, I'm going to show you what I did to I kind of built around it like a picture frame on the outside, so that when you push the glass in there, it just goes up against it, kind of like a frame. And then this will go behind there. And then once those are in place, I can put the trim around the inside, which is what will hold it in. So now that I finally am going to have all the trim done and everything in the house and on the outside of the house done, I will have that all painted up for the next video. And in the next video I'll probably show a little bit of that painting and, you know, what colors I used, what kind of paints. And then I'll finish the chimney. Chimney needs to be finished up, and the painting, and that'll be what I do in the next video.